So today we will be discussing about the engineering economy and the design process. An engineering economy study is accomplished using structured procedure and mathematical modeling techniques. The economic results are then used in a decision situation that normally includes other engineering knowledge and input. A sound engineering economic analysis procedure incorporates the basic principles and involves several steps. So here, this is the procedure on the left side and the steps, the design process on activity on the right side. So the 7-step procedure is also used to assist the decision making within the engineering design process. So this is this is it. And in this case, activities in the design process contribute information to related steps in the economic analysis procedure. Okay, so the general relationship between the activities in the design process and the steps, so between the two, is mauna ni siya ang ato i-discuss karon. Okay, so the engineering design process may be repeated, balik-balik siya, in phases for you to accomplish total design effort. So let's identify this first. Sa procedure, actually this is the procedure, ang steps niya is 7 and ang process activity niya, design process activity niya is 6 tanan. Okay, so first, the problem definition. Okay, so the first step of the engineering economic analysis procedure is the problem definition. And this is actually the most important, since it provides the basic for the rest of the analysis. So imagine if wala kay i-define a problem, so unsa unsay goal niya. Okay, a problem must be well understood and stated in an explicit form before the project team proceeds with the rest of the analysis. I also cannot imagine performing an analysis without the problem, because it is the basis, again, it is the basis sa imong na analysis. Okay, so the term problem, when you say problem, it is used here generically. It includes all decision situations for which an engineering economy analysis is required. Recognition of the problem is normally stimulated by could be internal or it could be external organizational needs or requirements. So say, for example, when you say operating problem within a company, internal need na siya. But if yan kay product, then na ay customer expectation kung unsa ang product or service, external na siya. Okay, so that is how you define ang internal or external na need. Okay? Once the problem is recognized, its formulation should be viewed from a system's perspective. That is, the boundary or extent of the situation needs to be carefully defined, thus establishing the elements of the problem, okay, and what constitutes its environment. And lastly, ang evaluation of the problem includes refinement of needs. So once ma-define na nimo ang problem, isa-isahon nimo sa iyong mga need and requirements depende kung unsa kadako imong problem. And information from the evaluation phase may change the original formation of the problem. So, syempre mag-dependent siya sa imong evaluation phase. Kaya base na imo occur na new problems or mo sprout out na mga new or minimal na mga problems na kailangan nimo i-consider. In fact, redefining the problem until a consensus is reached may be the most important part of the problem-solving process. So, redefine the problem if needed until you reach a consensus. Hantod maabot ka sa problem-solving process. Okay? So, next is the development of alternatives. So, the two primary actions, there are two. It is the searching for potential alternatives and screening them to select a smaller group of feasible alternatives for detailed analysis. Okay, so the term feasible, take note, ang feasible meaning that each alternative selected for further analysis is judged based on the preliminary evaluation to meet or exceed the requirements established for the situation. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so again, there are two primary actions. The first one is searching for superior alternatives, meaning the creativity and resourcefulness were emphasized as being absolutely essential to the development of potential alternatives. Okay, so we are searching for potential alternatives. Manang kailangan ang creativity and resourcefulness nimo. Okay, on how to address that one. So the difference between good alternatives and great, good and great. Okay, it depends largely on an individual or group's problem-solving efficiency. Okay, again, ang good and great is kanang mag-differ siya kung depende kung unsa kadako ang individual or group na solving efficiency. How efficient ang inyong process sa problem solving? Okay, there are ways unsaon pag-increase ang efficiency. Okay, so is it reflected here? Okay, here. So first, concentrate on redefining one problem at a time. Isa-isa lang. Number two, develop many redefinitions for the problem para ma-extract nimo kung unsay meaning or unsay core na kuan sa problem. Okay? So redefine. Develop many redefinitions. Avoid making judgment as new problem definitions are created. So, yeah. And, okay, so meaning, dili sa mag-conclude kung naapay possible ni new definitions na pwede ma-create out of the main problem that you have identified. Number four is attempt to redefine a problem in terms that are dramatically different from the original step of the problem definition. So, and number five is make sure that the true problem is well researched and understood. Diba? So, natay true problem and then you redefine all the problems. Attempt to redefine. Avoid making judgments, develop many redefinitions, concentrate on redefining. Okay, so, yeah, so the second, what's this? The limitations in searching for superior alternatives. So, actually, na limitations. For example, lack of time and money. Wala may time and money to push through ang mga processes ninyo. So, mag-limit yun mo, preconceptions of what will and what will not work. And lack of knowledge. So, kailangan siya mag-research. Consequently, the engineer or project team will be working with less than perfect problem solutions in the practice of engineering. Okay, now let's put into example all that we have discussed earlier. So, defining the problem and developing alternatives. Let's cover that process, steps first, okay? So, say that a management team of a small furniture manufacturing company is under pressure to increase profitability to get a much-needed loan from the bank to purchase a more modern pattern cutting machine. Meaning, gusto nila mo palit po a machine. Okay? Pero, take note nga, small furniture pa sila or furniture company sila. And they think nga ba to increase their ang profit nila, kailangan nila og loan. Okay, para maka-purchase sila. So, ang proposed solution is to sell ang mga pag na furniture company, di ba naman yung mga waste wood chips and shavings, ibaligyan na nila to a local charcoal manufacturer instead of using them to fuel space heaters for the company's office and factory areas. Again, take note na this waste wood chips, ginagamit nila currently sa ilang company para sa ilang mga to fuel space heaters para sa ilang company, but they are thinking na mas better siguro para ma-increase na to atong kuan, or ang solution is i-sell na lang nato ni na mga wood chips sa other local charcoal manufacturer. So ang steps that would be made part of the process is to define the company's problem. Okay, so unsa ang problem sa company? Next is reformulate the problem in a variety of creative ways. Okay, and letter B, develop at least one potential alternative for your reformulated in the first part. Okay, so mag-think ta of one potential alternative sa mga na-reformulate na to na problem. But let's not think nga feasible ba ni ana dili sa i-brainstorm sa natanan if ang mga possible alternatives nimo. Okay, ang mga potential. Now the solution. First, okay, now let's go to the solution. The company's problem appears to be that revenues are not sufficiently covering costs. Okay, so several reformation can be posed. First is the problem is to increase revenues while reducing the costs. Okay, another reformulation would be the problem is to maintain revenues while reducing costs. Okay, so the third would be the problem is an accounting system that provides distorted cost information. Baka ang accounting system lang yun ang problema that nasa lang mga discrepancy sa kuan og mga reports about the cost information. Okay, the fourth is the problem is that the new machine is really not needed, and hence there is no need for a bank loan. So, okay, so dili need ang new machine. So now let's move to B, the reformulation. Based on, let's consider the first reformulation that I mentioned, na katong the problem is to increase revenues, pero i-reduce na to ang costs. An alternative is to sell the wood chips and shavings as long as increased revenue exceeds extra expenses that may be required to hit the buildings, diba? Kay, syempre, pag isell nila to ang mga waste wood chips. So, unsa ila gamiton, kailangan na pud sila mo gasto para i-heat up nila ang buildings, diba? So, dapat kung ibenta to nila sa charcoal manufacturer, dapat ang ilang revenue adto, ang ilang kita adto is dako siya, mo exceed siya. Okay? So, another alternative is to discontinue the manufacture of specialty items and concentrate on standardized high-volume products. Pwede po ding ana. Yet another alternative is to pool purchasing, accounting, engineering, and other white-collar support services with other small firms in the area by contracting with a local company involved in providing these services. So pwede na lang nila when you say pool purchasing, when you say pool, pwede ka murag, I think that's outsourcing na kanang ingana ng mga type of services. Okay? In that way, makakat sila of cost or something like that. And mag-pool purchase na lang sila, accounting, engineering, and etc. So that's how you, that's one of the example sa kuan. Okay. Another is developing investment alternative. Okay, so investment alternatives. So it there's an old saying that goes, it takes money to make money. Takes money to make money. Diba? Murag yun like, say for example, gusto ko mag-start a business, but syempre, you need money for the imong i-capital so that you can make more money. Okay? So, yeah. So just a trivia. Do you know that in the United States, the average firm spends $250,000? $250,000. Ilan na siya? 12.5 M. So capital pa lang na on each of its employees. So to make money, so there are usually hundreds of opportunities for a company to make money. And engineers are at the very heart of creating value for a firm by turning innovative and creative ideas into new or re-engineered commercial products and services. Most of these ideas require investment of money, and only a few of all feasible ideas can be developed because, again, it could be due to lack of time, knowledge, or resources. So there are two approaches that have found wide acceptance in industry for developing sound investment alternatives by removing some of the barriers to creative thinking. First is the classical brainstorming, this one on your screen, and the other one is the nominal group technique, or we call this the NGT. So in classical brainstorming, there are four rules for successful brainstorming. Okay? When you say classical brainstorming, it is well known and often used technique for idea generation. So, diba, pag mag-brainstorm mo, unsa din yung goal, diba, para makakam up of mga ideas, to generate ideas based on a certain topic. Okay, it is based on the fundamental principles of deferment of judgment and that quantity breeds quality. Quantity breeds quality. So here are the four rules for successful brainstorm. First is criticism is ruled out. Second, freewheeling is welcomed. Third is quantity is wanted. Fourth, combination and improvement are sought. I think that's an understandable base sa iyang kanang pagka-present. Okay. And a classical brainstorming session has the following basic steps. So, preparation, where the participants are selected, and a preliminary statement of the problem is circulated. So, muna ang problem. Second, brainstorming. A warm-up session with simple, unrelated problems is conducted. The relevant problem and the four rules of brainstorming are presented. So again, diri i-present tong rules nga criticism is ruled out, freewheeling is welcome, quantity, combination improvement are sought, kung sa pay ways to improve and all. Okay? And ideas are generated and recorded using checklists and other techniques if necessary. Now, the last is the evaluation. So, isasahon nimo tanan ang imong mga ideas ng come up. The ideas are evaluated relative to the problem. Is this importante? Something like that. Is this feasible? So, generally, a brainstorming group should consist of 4 to 7 people. Although, pwede ang uban larger groups. Ang problema lang manggod sa larger groups, isa-isahon maguni mo siya tanan kung unsay idea niya about this, unsay pwede makuan, and it's so hard to achieve kanang consensus if larger group. So mas dagan groups, mas maayo, so that lain-lain and diverse ang mga ideas that could be generated from each group. Okay. Now, again, I mentioned this na the NGT is also one of the approach. It involves structured group meeting designed to incorporate individual ideas and judgment into a group consensus. Okay, so sorry. By correctly applying the NGT, it is possible to generate investment alternatives or other ideas for improving the competitiveness of the firm. The technique can be used to obtain group thinking consensus on a wide range of topics. And here is the basic format of an NGT session. First is individual silent generation of ideas. Take time na naamoy ka ng maka-generate mo. So, it begins with an explanation of the procedure and statement of question, particularly written by the facilitator. Okay? And then individual round-robin feedback or according and recording of ideas. So, third is group clarification of each idea. Kani, isa-isa nyo mag-evaluate ang ideas na group ang imong ka-meeting or sa group niyo siya i-open up. Tanan, pag ma-consolidate na. Individual voting and ranking to prioritize ideas. So, asa diri ang mas feasible, asa diri ang mas effective, asa diri ang mas efficient. Fifth is the discussion of group consensus results. So, ang process will continue until all the opportunities have been recorded, clarified, and displayed for all to see. And finally, voting results lead to the development of group consensus on the topic being addressed. Okay. Let's move to the third process, development of prospective outcomes. This is the step 3 of the engineering economic analysis procedure. So this uses the basic cash flow approach. The cash flow approach employed in engineering economy. When you say cash flow, it occurs when money is transferred from one organization or individual to another. Thus, cash flow represents the economic effects of an alternative in terms of money spent and received. So, So the key to developing the related cash flows for an alternative is estimating what would happen to the revenues and cost. In addition to the economic aspects of decision making or the non-monetary factors, or let's say attributes, often play a significant role in the final recommendation. Represents the economic effects of the money received. Yeah. It's cash flow. Okay. Okay, so fourth is the selection of this decision criterion. Selection of decision criterion incorporates the principle 5, meaning consider part siya dito or involved siya dito, meaning consider all relevant criteria. The decision maker will normally select the alternative kung sa iyang kuan mo best serve sa long-term interests of the owners of the organization. It is also true that the economic decision criterion should reflect a consistent and proper viewpoint, principle 3 nato, to be maintained throughout an engineer economic study. Okay, so we also have ang fifth na procedure is analysis and comparison of alternatives. So, analysis of the economic aspect of an engineering problem is largely based on cash flow estimates for the feasible alternatives selected for detailed study. So a substantial effort is normally required to obtain reasonably accurate forecast of cash flow and other factors in view of, for example, inflationary or deflationary pressures, exchange rate movements, and regulatory or legal mandates that often occur. Clearly, ang consideration sa mga future uncertainties, di ba mo na itong Principle 6, is an essential part of an engineering economic study. So, when cash flow and other required na mga estimates are eventually determined, pag gumana na siya, ang alternatives can be compared based on their differences as called for by Principle 2. Usually, these differences will be quantified in terms of a monetary and unit such as it could be a peso or a dollar. So 6 is the selection of the preferred alternative. When the first 5 steps of engineering economic analysis procedure have been properly done or executed, the preferred alternative is simply a result of the total effort. So, murag makuha na nimo siya dira. Thus, ang soundness of the technical economic modeling and analysis techniques dictates the quality of the results obtained and recommended course of action. Step 6 is included in Activity 5 of the engineering design process, ang specification of the preferred alternative when done as part of the design effort. And lastly, number 7 is the performance, monitoring, and post-evaluation of results. So, kanina final step is accomplished during and after the time that the results achieved from the selected alternative are collected. Monitoring project performance during its operational phase improves the achievement of related goals and objectives and reduces the variability in desired results. So, also, kaninga step is to follow up ang previous na mga analysis. Okay? Comparing mga actual results achieved with the previously estimated outcomes. Okay? Ang aim ani is to learn how to do better analysis. And the feedback from post-implementation evaluation is important to the continuing improvement of operations in any organizations. So, asay, kanina siya nga step, dili kayo siya mahimo consistently, but importante gyud ang post-evaluation sa results. Okay, so, therefore, it needs particular attention to ensure feedback for use in ongoing subsequent studies. Okay, so I think this is the last part sa kaninga topic. So, thank you.